Thank you for joining me. Welcome to Camnet TV Main News. I am Precious Mzea Sakaleji. The headlines. Reject candidates campaigning on tribal lines advises a governance activist. Zambia's healthcare system has collapsed due to bad leadership, charges GARRY NKOMBO. COVID-19 death toll increases by 61 in 24 hours. And in international news, BURKINABE soldiers killed while looking for 4 missing police officers, government. And in sports, 2 more slots for the Confederation Cup up for grabs as ZESCO and ZANACO pick 1 each. Join me with the main news in detail after this commercial. Zambia has embarked on an economic journey for individual financial emancipation, empowering its citizens through land acquisition and developing the nation through agriculture. This time, Zambians are coming together, taking it upon themselves with the help of government to develop this great nation by taking individual responsibility and ownership of this great nation. The economic revolution has started. There are thousands of Zambians with a can-do mindset who are resolute, unstoppable, full of confidence and conviction that Zambia's set time of favor for development is now. Don't be left out. This could be the time you have been waiting for. Camnet Television, in conjunction with the United Agrivision Consultancy Limited, will be hosting a national conference on becoming a millionaire through agriculture. Date 1st October and 2nd October 2021. Charges 750 kwacha per person per day, that includes lunch. A limited number of participants through Zoom have also been reserved. You can also be part of the conference from the comfort of your home by registering online via Zoom, joining the people who were born for greatness. Charges for participation via Zoom are only 300 kwacha per person. Time 0730 hours to 17 hours. Registration and confirmation of attendance will take place on the 29th of September 2021. Time 14 hours to 17 hours. Venue the Healing Word Ministries International, the home of Camnet Television in Apex Hill, Kabulonga Road, Lusaka. And now the main news in detail. An unidentified man has escaped unhurt after a concrete truck mixer he was driving overturned along Bishop Road in Lusaka's Kapulonga area, spilling all the mixture. An eyewitness has told Camnet News that the truck belonging to Strong Concrete overturned after the driver parked it on top of a sealed drainage as he attempted to make a turn into a construction site where he was destined to deliver the concrete. Jimson Dawa, however, says this is the second time in less than a month a truck is overturning at the same spot owing to the low quality of materials being used to cover the top of the drainages. Mr. Dawa has since called on the Road Development Agency to inspect the quality of work being done to cover drainages before a life is lost.
A man not yet identified Thursday morning escaped unhurt near Kabulonga Mall in Lusaka after a concrete truck mixer he was driving overturned, hitting into a pick and pay bread delivery truck that was parked at the roadside. Eyewitnesses have told this reporter that this is not the first time a truck is overturning at the same spot, saying a pick and pay truck had few weeks ago fallen at the same spot owing to the quality of concrete that the contractor used when covering the drainage. Jameson Indawa, an eyewitness, has told this reporter that the driver of the truck was trying to make a turn to the construction site opposite his direction when the truck overturned.
Driver actually showed poverty engile mutamaki achila mutamaki aisapa kwa side so actually show engile ageri mutamaki olo nomba achisa pita apa pita drainage then achisa dilika that drainage omo achisa nyanto omo achisa bulikira nomba moto achisa bulikira olo achisa mbo kukiruka ile achisa mbo kula imafipa nono pano na matires not until yafika na punch.
Another eyewitness who hoped to remain anonymous has told this reporter that 5 more trucks had fallen at the same spot, saying the contractor who has been mending the spot has continued to be careless despite knowing that cars will continue to overturn.
What has caused this accident is the drainage. This truck, this is not the first one to enter this drainage. I think what the materials which they are using on making this drainage, this truck was carrying some concrete. Now, because it's heavy, and so it entered in this drainage.
Residents and workers at the mall have called on the Road Development Agency to visit the site and assess how well the drainage along this road can be covered without it being a potential hazard to the public. Prudence Chota, reporting for Camnet TV News.
United Party for National Development Mazibuka Central aspiring candidate GARRY NKOMBO has charged that the country's health system has collapsed, thereby endangering many lives who cannot access healthcare services. Speaking during a public debate for Mazibuka aspiring candidates, among them the Socialist Party and an independent candidate, Mr. NKOMBO notes that though healthcare service provision is a social service, government has failed to meet the demands of the people. And Mr. NKOMBO notes that while healthcare provision services such as a healthcare insurance scheme has been put in place, many do not enjoy this facility as most of the accredited health centers have no medicines. The former lawmaker has to this effect stated that once the UPND is given an opportunity to lead this country, with him as Member of Parliament, healthcare provision will be top of their agenda. Meanwhile, Socialist Party candidate Thoman Koloma says Zambia is a rich country capable of managing its own challenges, but that it is in the wrong hands. And independent candidate Kizi Munga says there is no need to interrogate the coast drivers in the health sector. The public debate was organized by Osisa, Barta FM and News Diggers.
Health is a social service, and so regardless of the cost of it, every citizen must enjoy that social security service to be treated when they are unwell. What should support this social service? The healthcare system. In countries that are developed, there is insurance, health insurance. Many of our citizens do not enjoy health insurance. They depend on going to the hospital, to the OPD, to be given a prescription, to go to the chemist to buy. That's the short route. And that's the fastest route to death. Because sometimes even the healthcare systems do not do proper diagnosis of people when they are sick. So where is the problem? I want you to know that as an MP, if my two colleagues qualify on the 12th, my advice is that they must sit on government to make sure that the government first achieves what is called, and I hope they know about this, the Abuja Declaration.
So when it comes to health, we say universal health care for all. By so doing, we want to give equal access to everyone. And we say this in a sense that there is this barrier that we have of having high cost and low cost. And that barrier, we as a Socialist Party, we want to break it.
40% more competitive than yourself. So what we need to do are capital markets which are affordable to not only the Chinese and other foreign companies, but we need to actually create an environment where Zambian manufacturers will be encouraged to borrow at reasonable rates of interest and set up manufacturing firms. In the short run, that might look like an expensive venture, but considering that we are going to go over this, it's going to be more cost effective to actually set up manufacturing facilities.
The United Party for National Development UPND Northwestern Province have thanked all political parties in the district for holding peaceful campaigns so far. The UPND, through its branch chairman Mulofwa Katiki, says campaigns in the district started on smooth trajectory and have remained violence-free. Mr. Katiki has since urged all political parties in the district to continue with the peace shown during the campaign period. Earlier, 3 Patriotic Front members, among them branch chairman Loti Kapindula, ward youth chairman Kelvin Sujiton, and former ward chairman Alex Kalusa, has described UPND leader Hakainde Hichilema as a strong and level-headed leader who means well for Zambia.
Oh, meaning Zambian people have realized that it is only President Hakainde Hichilema who is able to deliver this country where it's supposed to be.
President Hakainde Hichilema moba kunywe bachuchungenye kubatwara mu makoti mwepi mnoketu muna puku wapo cyatama obwejapo kibine cyo cyarengera kwamba tuwe bepi tujoine kino gipencha UPND nanchi barongo bami ba UPND twangu waburongo neteba pakwitutambwira bansendere kurusaka kubakafuwa yako kwa nakajingane ku State House ne bayitike cyagwarungu naingira na PF kime cyabaya sana kemero muna po bukomone cyo kine kintu cyarengera kwa mamba ujuba jarero twiye pano twingire pomona ka nani kane na kipanyi kibena kumweka kwamba kipanyi cyafwana kuiturubura.
Campaigns have started on very well. We have been in all the wards. They are so smoothly as per se. My words to the people out there is that from the time we started our campaigns and up to date, no violence has been recorded. And our hope, our prayer is that we continue at the same pace with no violence being expected.
The Opposition Movement for Democratic Change MDC chairman for Agriculture Godfrey Wallo has attributed the frail performance of the Zambian kwacha to lack of fiscal discipline in all government ministries. Dr. Wallo notes that once there is a financial discipline across government sectors, the local currency will stabilize and gain value on the foreign exchange market. He has charged that things can change with the serious leadership in place that understands the dimension of the economic challenges the country is faced with.
The kwacha to $1 was less than 10 kwacha, but now it's at 22, 23 kwacha. Who is managing the finances? How are they manipulating these finances? Let us give people that have a heart, that know how to actually do the financial management, financial discipline. Again, I'll tell you locally, how much discipline is there in management of resources within the country? How many vehicles are moving every day on government expense? How many vehicles are breaking down every day at government expense? For non-government work, people are building houses at government expense using government vehicles. That's local expenditure. The fiscal discipline is not there. So all these things, we need to manage them properly so that we can have reserve money for investment.
In other news, a governance activist, Lewis Mwape, has charged that for the past 10 years, the country has not had visionary leaders who have found durable solutions to the problems that the country is facing. Speaking to Camnet TV in an exclusive interview, Mr. Mwape says that the country needs a leadership that will focus more on service rather than self-gratification. Meanwhile, Mr. Mwape states that citizens must condemn political parties that advocate for tribalism by not voting for them.
With the country being left with 48 days to go toward the polls, many citizens expect those with intentions to hold public office to outline durable solutions to the problems that the country is facing. Governance activist Lewis Mwape says after the 12th August general elections, the country needs a leadership that will focus more on service rather than self-gratification.
And leadership is about being selflessness. But I think what we have had in the past 10 years is a situation where leadership has not been provided to the many issues that the country has been facing. And I think there has been a lot of egocentric, a number of our ministers that served in the Edgar Lungu regime, I think were so selfish in a way. I think that could be attested by the reports in the Auditor General reports and the financial intelligence reports. And we could in a way also say President Lungu acted very late to fire that particular minister. But so what we need going forward is a leadership that must have focusing on more on service rather than self gratification. So if that is not the case, Zambia shall continue to be poor. Zambia shall continue to have increased poverty in our country.
Meanwhile, Mr. Mwape states that citizens must condemn political parties that would advocate for tribalism by not voting for them. He has advised electorates to cast their vote for a political party that will provide good leadership quality.
And also as citizens of this country, I think the next move should be that anyone who talks about tribalism must be condemned by not voting for that particular political party, because for next election it shouldn't be about a tribe. It shouldn't be a competition between the Bembas and Lozis. It shouldn't be the competition between the Easterners and the Tongas. It should be a competition between quality leadership. So we, the Zambian people, must go on 12th August and vote for quality leadership. Wherever it is found, I think that is where the voters must cast their vote. So for now, if we are to come out of this poverty, I think there is need to change the game plan.
Miriam Kemba, reporting for Camnet TV News.
Bankers Association of Zambia BAZ Chief Executive Officer Leonard Mwanza says the banking sector has recorded impressive profitability during the first quarter of 2021. In an interview, Mr. Mwanza states that most regulatory targets were met despite the outbreak of the COVID-19 pandemic, which had taken a toll on the economy. He has, however, explained that the banks will continue to work towards reducing the non-performing loans rates from 14.4% to a required standard.
Well, in the first quarter of 2021, the banking sector had a good performance. We saw satisfactory results in terms of profitability. We saw positive growth on the balance sheet in terms of deposits and also in terms of the loan portfolio. So on those parameters, the banking sector did very well in the first quarter and remained very well capitalized and above the minimum levels of capital requirements in the first quarter. However, the only downside risk emanates from the high levels of non-performing loans, which were at 11.4%, which was still above the prudential limit of 10%. And I think that's an area which banks will keep watching, because as we pass through the third wave of COVID-19, the subdued economy, that risk will still be looming large. And I think those are the concerns that banks will keep managing going forward. But all in all, I would say it was a satisfactory performance for the first quarter of 2021.
The Zambia Statistical Agency ZAMSTAT has reported that Zambia's gross domestic product (GDP) estimates for the first quarter of 2021 shows that the economy grew by 0.7%, the highest since August of 2018. ZAMSTAT interim statistician General Msepa Mlenga has attributed the increase to the positive performance attributed to three industries, namely the agriculture, forestry and fishing, financial financial and insurance and information and communication activities. Mr. Mlenga, however, says the country's annual inflation rate for the month of June increased to a record high at 24.6% from 23.2% in May 2021. He says the increase in the annual inflation rate is mainly attributed to price increases in some food items such as meat, frozen meat and live chicken, fish, coffee, tea and cocoa.
From August of 2018, the Zambian economy has been contracting and at one point contracted as low as -5.9 in the second quarter of 2019, sending a negative message to would-be investors. An economic contraction is a decline in the national output as measured by the gross domestic product (GDP) of any country. That includes a drop in real personnel income, industrial production, and retail sales, as well as increased unemployment rate as companies stop hiring to save money in the face of lower demand. A contraction only ends when prices fall enough to attract renewed demand. And Zambia's statistical agency has announced that Zambia's GDP estimates for the first quarter of 2021 has shown that the country grew by 0.7%. This represents a 1.0 percentage point increase from the negatives that the country has been recording since 2020, owed to the effect the COVID-19 pandemic has brought on the economy.
And we did in the first quarter of 2020 report a contraction of 0.3%, followed by a contraction of 5.9% in second quarter 2020, and another contraction of 3.1%, and finally 2.7% in Q4 2020. And we're reporting that the first quarter of 2021 recorded a growth of 0.7%.
The increase in the first quarter of 2021 has mainly been attributed to the positive performance attributed to three industries, namely agriculture, forestry and fishing, financial and insurance, and information and communication activities.
The sectors that drove this growth were agriculture, financial and insurance activities, information and communication, which posted growth rates of 14.5%, 20.2% and 23.6% respectively. However, you still had contractions in industries such as arts, entertainment and recreation, accommodation and food, education and public administration.
But despite the country recording a bumper harvest in the 2020-2021 farming season where farmers have already started harvesting their crops, Zambia's inflation rate for the month of June has climbed to 24.7%, the highest in the history of the country owing to the price increase in some food items such as meat, frozen and live chicken, fish and coffee, tea and cocoa.
On an annual basis rose to 24.6% in June 2021 from 23.2% in May 2020. Again, the same food categories, broken, I think, meat, fish, and poultry, chickens, have continued to drive prices upwards.
Meanwhile, Zambia recorded a trade surplus of 6.9 billion kwacha in May of 2021 compared to a surplus of 10.2 billion kwacha in April of 2021, indicating a 31.9% decrease. A trade surplus is an economic measure of a positive balance of trade where a country's export exceeds its import. In this case, Zambia had in the month of May exported more than it imported.
Surplus in the month of May, we report this with a lag of 1 month. The surplus we are reporting is 6.9 billion, though this was a slight fall, and the fall was basically explained by a fall in exports of 8%.
With the Zambian economy now on a recovery trajectory, change should begin to be felt by every citizen who has greatly been affected by the contracted economy. Prudence Chota, reporting for Camnet TV News.
GOV'T International and BSL Infrastructure have signed a 120,000 cubic meter fuel storage deal with Tazama Pipelines Limited that will transform Zambia's fuel supply. In a statement made available to the media, Janus Continental Group Corporate Affairs Manager Oliver Alpin says Tazama Pipelines Limited will hand over a site to the two companies in an official ceremony to commence construction of Tanzania's largest fuel depot site. Mr. Alpin says petroleum products imported via Tanzania are currently being stored in multiple facilities across Dar es Salaam, while no single facility has enough capacity to meet demands. He says the site will hold 80,000 cubic meter of diesel and 40,000 cubic meter of petrol, meaning it will be able to store all petroleum products handed for Zambia and drastically improve time and cost efficiency for oil marketers. Mr. Alpin adds that increasing storage capacity will boost the supply of fuel, helping to alleviate fuel shortages, which is vital for the sustainable development of Zambia. The consortium will build, finance and operate the site on behalf of Tazama. Ministry of Health Permanent Secretary for Technical Services, Dr. Kennedy Malama, says the increasing tendency by people to self-prescribe and self-medicate using zinc, vitamins, and azithromycin, among other medication, should not be allowed. Dr. Malama says although self-prescribing are placing themselves at risk of severe adverse reaction, dangerous drug interaction, including incorrect self-diagnosis and treatment. Meanwhile, some mourners have told Camnet TV News that government should rescind the decision to restrict funerals to 50 people.
With COVID-19 cases and deaths on the rise in Zambia, are the Zambian citizens doing enough to stop the further spread of the pandemic? Is a question that begs for answers. With some still doubting that there is no COVID-19, Ministry of Health has announced that 61 people have died in the last 24 hours, the largest single most death from the time the pandemic broke out in the country.
Last 24 hours as a country, we recorded a total of 3,594 new confirmed COVID-19 cases out of 12,880 tests we conducted. This gives a positivity of 28%. Again, you can see the positivity for our country is around 30%. In other words, when you test 100 people, about 30 of them are becoming positive. This is not a systematic sampling per se, but just of those we test in the hospitals and some in the community and other settings, the positivity remains high. On a sad note, in the last 24 hours, as a country, we lost 61 people due to COVID-19. Again, when you look at this number, this is the highest we've recorded since COVID-19 was confirmed in the country.
And the ministry notes with regret the increasing tendency by people to self-prescribe and self-medicate using zinc, vitamins, and erythromycin, among other medications, which the ministry is concerned about.
Self-prescription, and they go on to take these medications. The dangers of self-prescription cannot be overemphasized. People place themselves at risk of severe adverse reactions, dangerous drug interactions, including incorrect self-diagnosis and treatment. And many a time, when you self-prescribe, self-medicate, by the time you reach the hospital with severe disease, the health practitioners will not know what else you've taken, and that is likely to compromise your life. We're also getting reports of people administering oxygen by themselves at home. All these practices do not only delay appropriate treatment, but lead to avoidable deaths.
And a check at Leopards Hill Cemetery in Lusaka has indicated that mourners are not adhering to the prescribed guidelines of only 50 people to attend a funeral. And one person spoken to explains that it is hard for people not to escort their loved ones to their final resting place, and have called on government to consider changing this rule.
chimatikanga kuti tisale so wambiri aliyensa mafura kwenda ndasiringa sanke popali vantachi iwe nawo dzaoneka fuluka pani zikona patuja muntu anali konda vantu vambiri so tifunika tabwera vantu vambiri so that oluvenango kapena vazavaleso ngalo vangala vanji vatu vaperekeza chabe mwaiona ndibamene mankalira because sitingakane muzo muntu ngatamwalira kumankala bantu bambiri so bena ngomafuna tishinikishe tuone zona kuti ati muntu atisiya so paliyo nkani bafunika baganizepo simamene.
The ministry has therefore urged members of the public to adhere to various prescribed public health and social measures, further amplified through the directive made by His Excellency the President through the Secretary to Cabinet on 18th June 2021. Prudence Chota, reporting for Camnet TV News.
You're still watching Camnet TV's main news. For now, we take our first set of commercials. We'll be back with more news after this.
From time immemorial, we have had different types of lighting options, from those that can burn down our investments in minutes to those that dig holes in our pockets due to constant replacement and huge consumption of our ZESCO units. Savenda Electric introduces the new and advanced electric bulb with cutting-edge technology of LED that has low power consumption, gives out bright white light, and lasts up to 25,000 hours. Savenda Electric manufactures all types of LED light, like plastic LED fluorescent tubes, down lights, ceiling lights, outdoor fittings, and solar street lights made to customer specifications. Let's live on the bright side of life by choosing the wide range of Savenda electric lighting solutions that are available in all leading stores and supermarkets countrywide. For orders, call 0962-642-490 or email jnbunda@savenda.com or pchabula@savenda.com.
Chagwalungu and the Patriotic Front have transformed the transportation sector by facilitating the construction of bus stations around the country. Vote for Edgar Chagwalungu and the PF that have brought you change.
At Master Signs, our services range from outdoor, indoor signage such as billboards, banners, 3D light boxes, pylons and neon signs. We are located at plot number 397A, Makeni Road, Lusaka, at Oryx Filling Station. For more details, call us on +260 967 100 090 or +260 966 999 981, or better still, email us at infomastersign@gmail.com. Master Sign, we will make it shine.
Every day for me means hard work, going to sell my goods at the local market. To get more customers, I have my secret. Oracle Pure Glycerin. It's soft, smooth, and keeps my skin perfect. And my customers know it. Thank you, Oracle, for my perfect skin.
Zambia has embarked on an economic journey for individual financial emancipation, empowering its citizens through land acquisition and developing the nation through agriculture. This time, Zambians are coming together, taking it upon themselves with the help of government to develop this great nation by taking individual responsibility and ownership of this great nation. The economic revolution has started. There are thousands of Zambians with a can-do mindset who are resolute, unstoppable, full of confidence and conviction that Zambia's set time of favor for development is now. Don't be left out. This could be the time you have been waiting for. Camnet Television, in conjunction with the United Agrivision Consultancy Limited, will be hosting a national conference on becoming a millionaire through agriculture. Date 1st October and 2nd October 2021. Charges 750 kwacha per person per day, that includes lunch. A limited number of participants through Zoom have also been reserved. You can also be part of the conference from the comfort of your home by registering online via Zoom, joining the people who were born for greatness. Charges for participation via Zoom are only 300 kwacha per person. Time 0730 hours to 17 hours. Registration and confirmation of attendance will take place on the 29th of September 2021. Time 14 hours to 17 hours. Venue, the Healing Word Ministries International, the home of Camnet Television in Apex Hill, Kabulonga Road, Lusaka. Welcome back. We continue with the rest of the main news. Residents Doctors Association of Zambia President Dr. Brian Sampa has commenced judicial review proceedings against the Health Professional Council of Zambia before the Lusaka High Court for revoking his practicing license. Dr. Sampa, whose license was suspended on the 29th of May 2021, wants a declaration that the purported decision by the government to suspend his practice license in the absence of the HPCZ board is illegal, irrational and procedurally improper. He further wants an order of certiorari to quash the government's decision to suspend his practicing license.
Following the decision by the Health Professional Council of Zambia to suspend his practicing license in May, Resident Doctors Association of Zambia President Dr. Brian Sampa has taken the stance to challenge this action before the Lusaka High Court, claiming the decision was illegal. His license suspension was due to a go-slow by members of Resident Doctors Association over unpaid salary arrears for doctors, the dismantling of arrears and gratuity for medical doctors, creation of position for senior resident medical officers, registrar and consultants, and the recruitment of 500 newly graduated medical doctors. But the go-slow did not go well as Dr. Sampa saw his license being revoked by the HPCZ for gross professional misconduct. Dr. Sampa, who has now commenced judicial review proceedings against the Health Professional Council of Zambia, argues that the HPCZ did not follow the laid-down procedure for disciplinary cases in line with Section 64(1)(a) and 65 of the Commission, as he was not given an opportunity to be heard. He explains that on the 3rd of June 2021, the HPCZ registrar wrote to his lawyers advising them that they were unable to trace him and attached 2 letters dated the 28th and 29th of May 2021 and a notice of suspension purportedly suspending his license. He was then given a day to exculpate himself and show cause why his practice certificate should not be suspended. In his notice of application for leave to apply for judicial review, Dr. Sampa states that in April 2017, former Minister of Health Dr. Chitalu Chilufya appointed a 16-member board of the HPCZ whose term was to run for 3 years and would expire in April 2020. He submits that in 2019, Dr. Chilufya removed Professor Sekalani Banda, who was then board chairman for HPCZ, and replaced him with Dr. Kenneth Malama. And Dr. Kenneth Malama was to complete Professor Banda's term, but in 2020, the mandate of the HPCZ board members, including that of Dr. Malama, expired. Dr. Sampa states that following the expiration of the 3-year term for the board members, neither Dr. Chilufya nor his successor appointed new members of HPCZ, therefore the HPCZ was not operational. He is seeking a declaration that the purported decision of the government to suspend his practicing certificate in the absence of the HPCZ board was illegal, irrational and procedurally improper. Dr. Sampa prays that if leave is granted, it should operate as a stay of the decision of the HPCZ registrar until the determination of the matter. Miriam Kemba, reporting for Camnet TV News.
A 27-year-old man of Lusaka's Makeni Villa has been dragged to court for allegedly stealing over 20,000 kwacha cash, the property of St. Monica Parish Church. This is in a matter where Kelvin Mulenga, a general worker, is charged with 1 count of theft by servant, contrary to Section 272 and 278 of the Penal Code Chapter 8 87 of the laws of Zambia. It is alleged that Mulenga on debts a non-bar between 1st July and November 2020 in Lusaka, while being a person employed by the church, stole 20,570 kwacha cash. When the matter came up for allocation this morning before Magistrate Tandosa Chabala, the accused was not before court. He is expected to appear before court soon for plea. Meanwhile, 2 men aged between 29 and 51 appeared before the Lusaka Magistrate Court for allegedly stealing a barbed wire fence valued at 5,000 kwacha. In this matter, John Namushi, 29, a guard of Lusaka's Mrs. Compound, and Frederick Mumba, 51, a driver of Lusaka's Matero Compound, stand charged with 1 count of theft contrary to Section 272 of the Penal Code. Allegations are that the duo on the 10th of June 2021 in Lusaka, jointly and whilst acting together, stole a barbed wire fence valued at 5,000 kwacha, the property of National Institute for Scientific and Industrial Research. They are expected to soon to take plea. The Lamba Lima Swaka Association of Zambia has charged that the demise of Zambia's first Republican president, Dr. Kenneth Kaunda, is a great loss that the country had to suffer this time around. Speaking to Camnet TV in an exclusive interview, LASAZ President Jimmy Katanga says the association is saddened by his death. He adds that Dr. Kaunda was a great leader whose footsteps must be followed by the men and women of this country.
Morning, our great gallant, the late Dr. Kenneth David Kaunda. May his soul rest in peace. As Lamba Lima Swaka Association of Zambia, when we received the news about the demise of our great gallant, we received the news with deep sorrow in our hearts, because we did not expect this man to die this time around. This is the man who deserves to be called son of Africa, son of soil, because he brought the peace that we are enjoying today in this nation. He did not just bring peace in Zambia, but he has contributed to the peace our neighboring countries are enjoying, namely South Africa, Zimbabwe, Botswana, Malawi, to mention but a few. All these countries, they are enjoying the peace this man contributed. So he deserves to be called the son of Africa. He was a tribe unifier. He brought the slogan, one Zambia, one nation, of which all the tribes are still united.
Police in Wapula province are investigating an incident of arson in which Kalungwishi FM studio station in Chief Mununga of Chienge district is reported to have been set ablaze by unknown criminals in the early hours of Thursday, 24th June 2021. Police spokesperson Esther Katongo has explained that police who rushed to the scene found 3 bottles and a 20-liter container containing some petrol, which is suspected to have been used to ignite the fire. Ms. Katongo says the fire burnt an air conditioner and a transmission cable, bringing the total value of property destroyed to 16,000 kwacha. The police spokesperson adds that members of the public who quickly responded to the call of distress managed to extinguish the fire and prevented it from spreading to other parts of the building. And a 54-year-old security guard, Lewis Mwila, who was on duty at that time of the incident, says 3 criminals were spotted at the radio station carrying with them bottles of petrol, which they began spilling around the radio station building, while one set the building ablaze. Ms. Katanga has since appealed to those who could have information on the criminals behind the criminal act to report to the nearest police. We'll take our second set of commercials. Coming next is international and sports news.
I was born in Mwengwa in a grass-thatched house. I went to school barefoot and then to secondary school, university camp, all of these on government bursary, on the sponsorship of the people of Zambia. Many people ask me questions. Why have you continued to seek public office? You've been arrested 15 times. This fight is not about Hakainde. It's about 18 million Zambians who want a better life. I'm standing for the presidency of this country because I know and I believe that this country is so rich and yet its people live in poverty. I am standing for that child to have an opportunity to go to school the way I did myself. It's time for change. Zambians have suffered enough. I'm Hakainde Hichilema. I invite you to take my hand. Together, we will build a better land for every Zambian.
In this fast-paced era of industrial boom and population growth, there is need to invest in smart ways of managing electricity and water consumption and reducing utility billing costs associated with the postpaid billing system. At Savenda Electronics, we manufacture right here in Zambia different types of high-quality smart electricity and water meters to customer specifications. Savenda Electronics water and electricity meters help you monitor your usage and gives notifications such as low units, tampering, low battery, and many other features. These easy-to-use meters makes it easier to buy units even in these COVID times and top up just from the comfort of your space. Favorable contract terms are available to both electricity and water utilities. For more details, get in touch with us on the following numbers: 0956 580 349 or 0977 498 318. Savenda Electronics, the real deal.
NKOMBO International Airport, located just 15 kilometers from the Victoria Falls, is now one of the best and busiest airports that Zambia has. Vote for Edgar Chagwa Lungu and the PF that have brought you change.
Zambia has embarked on an economic journey for individual financial emancipation, empowering its citizens through land acquisition and developing the nation through agriculture. This time, Zambians are coming together, taking it upon themselves with the help of government to develop this great nation by taking individual responsibility and ownership of this great nation. The economic revolution has started. There are thousands of Zambians with a can-do mindset who are resolute, unstoppable, full of confidence and conviction that Zambia's set time of favor for development is now. Don't be left out. This could be the time you have been waiting for. Camnet Television, in conjunction with the United Agrivision Consultancy Limited, will be hosting a national conference on becoming a millionaire through agriculture. Date: 1st October and 2nd October 2021. Charges: 750 kwacha per person per day, that includes lunch. A limited number of participants through Zoom have also been reserved. You can also be part of the conference from the comfort of your home by registering online via Zoom, joining the people who were born for greatness. Charges for participation via Zoom are only 300 kwacha per person. Time: 0730 hours to 17 hours. Registration and confirmation of attendance will take place on the 29th of September 2021. Time: 14 hours to 17 hours. Venue: the Healing Word Ministries International, the home of Camnet Television in Apex Hill, Kabulonga Road, Lusaka. Welcome back. We now get into our international item. The Central African Republic is in desperate humanitarian situation. More than half of the early 5 million inhabitants need help. On Wednesday, the country was on the agenda of the United Nations Security Council, where Angola's President João Lourenço spoke. In other news, 2 BURKINABE soldiers were killed while looking for 4 missing policemen following a deadly jihadist ambush, the government said Wednesday. According to the government of Burkina Faso, a member of the civilian militia helping the army fight jihadists had been killed in an attack Monday in the North region. About 10 and other militia members were still missing on Wednesday, the government say.
A desperate humanitarian situation in the Central African Republic. More than half of the nearly 5 million inhabitants need help. On Wednesday, the country was on the agenda of the UN Security Council, where Angola's President João Lourenço spoke. Euronews spoke to head of the UN Office for the Coordination of Humanitarian Action in the Central African Republic.
More than half of the population suffers from food shortages, with 1.8 million in acute humanitarian need. And the situation has completely deteriorated since late December, following the post-election violence and subsequent clashes between the regular army and the various armed groups, which has created new internal displacements. Whether it is the armed forces or the blue helmets, we ask that the existing means be reinforced to guarantee security, and not only the security of the population, because the population needs this security, but especially the populations weakened by this violence. They also need to be assisted by those who provide assistance, the humanitarian workers.
Ils ont besoin aussi d'être assistés. Ce qui apporte l'assistance, c'est les humanitaires.
Angola chairs the International Conference for the Great Lakes region. It has hosted 2 summits of heads of state and government in 2021 to discuss the situation and seek a regional solution. President João Lourenço traveled to the UN headquarters to share the vision of African countries with the Security Council on Wednesday. The day before, he met with Secretary General Antonio Guterres. He explained why the countries of the region are calling for the lifting of the arms embargo on the Bangui government in force until the end of July.
The legitimately elected government, which has already taken office, has the duty to defend civilians, has the duty to protect the populations. So this government needs means, needs weapons to defend civilians and stand up to these armed groups, while negotiations take place in order to find a negotiated solution.
A esses grupos armados, enquanto ocorrem as negociações para encontrar uma solução negociada.
That's an African conflict management expert summing up the position of leaders of the Great Lakes countries. The Angolan president defended the end of the arms embargo. He stressed that now is the right time for the CAR to form its troops, since it has the presence of the blue helmets and other foreign forces. The current mandate of the UN soldiers ends in November. 2 Burkinabe soldiers were killed while looking for 4 missing policemen following a deadly jihadist ambush, the government said Wednesday. The most important information is that the interrogation of these 2 people indicates that the group that carried out the attack is called Mujah al-Qaeda. According to the government of Burkina Faso, a member of a civilian militia helping the army fight jihadists had been killed in an attack Monday in the North region. Every army, the strongest, the best equipped, the fighting technique that everyone fears is the ambush. Why the ambush? The ambush because it is the enemy who takes the initiative. It is violent, fast and devastating. And if you notice in our casualties, it is always in ambushes, and it is always in mine explosions. Burkina Faso has been grappling with a jihadist insurgency that has left at least 1,400 dead since 2015.
Relatives of the injured wait outside a hospital for news following the bombing of a busy market in the village of Togoga in Ethiopia's Tigray region. Some of the victims were brought here to the regional capital Mekelle, 30 kilometers away, but many more wounded are believed to be trapped in the village. Health workers say soldiers blocked medical teams from reaching the scene.
A lot of people were injured, but they didn't get medical service help because of the blockage of the road by the military.
The US State Department called those reports credible and said in a statement that denying victims urgently needed medical care is heinous and absolutely unacceptable. We urged the Ethiopian authorities to ensure full and unhindered medical access to the victims immediately.
I called for accountability. I called for an investigation for what has happened. But more broadly, we have made clear our position on the issues in Tigray. We have asked for a ceasefire. We've demanded a ceasefire.
The attack happened during some of the most intense fighting since the conflict between the army and Tigray regional forces began in November. It's not been confirmed who carried out the attack, but military analysts say evidence overwhelmingly suggests the Ethiopian Air Force is responsible.
There's frankly nobody else who could have done it. The Eritrean Air Force is not operating in the area. The Tigrayans have no air force. Who else could have done it? It must have been an Ethiopian jet. I don't think that will come as any surprise to anyone.
The UN has expressed deep alarm at the reports of violence and says it's pushing for access to the region.
The situation in the area remains very, very volatile. It's important that everyone engaged in fighting do their utmost to protect civilians, to obey international humanitarian law.
This conflict is now in its 8th month. Tigray opposition parties say more than 50,000 people have been killed, while the UN says more than 350,000 have been pushed into famine. Last week, the African Union launched an independent inquiry into alleged human rights abuses in the region after widespread accounts of massacres and sexual violence against civilians. This attack may well be added to the growing list of atrocities to investigate. Victoria Gatenby, Al Jazeera.
We now get into our sports item. ZESCO United and ZANACO have clinched the CAF Champions League slots, but 2 more slots for the CAF Confederation Cup are still up for grabs. ZAMFoot reports that Red Arrows, Kawe Warriors, Green Eagles, Prison Leopards, Lusaka Dynamos and Kwazi are the teams battling for the 2 CAF Confederation Cup places. The race to qualify for the available CAF Confederation Cup has become a lot more intense in the last few days. With 1 game left to play, 6 teams will get into the weekend games thinking that the gods of football may tend to them for the fortune and make it into continental football. The results over the weekend ensured that the fight will go right to the wire, with Red Arrows and Kawe Warriors failing to produce winners from the contest meant the 2 teams will still have to wait for the last day to celebrate CAF qualification. That slip allowed Green Eagles, Lusaka Dynamos, Prison Leopards and Kwazi to re-enter the picture with 1 round of games to play. 6 clubs are vying for just 2 slots. But then even Green Buffaloes and BURKINABE should also say they have an outside chance. Well, that sports item brings us to the end of Camnet TV main news. But before we go, here are the headlines once again. Reject candidates campaigning on tribal lines advises a governance activist. Zambia's healthcare system has collapsed due to bad leadership, charges GARRY NKOMBO. COVID-19 death toll increases by 61 in 24 hours. And in international news, BURKINABE soldiers are killed while looking for 4 missing police officers, government. And in sports, 2 more slots for the CAF Confederation Cup up for grabs as ZESCO and ZANACO pick 1 each. Before we go, here's our coming verse of the day, and it's coming from the book of Revelation 21 verse 4, and it reads, "He will wipe away every tear from their eyes. Death will no longer exist. Grief, crying and pain will exist no longer, because the previous things have passed away." Thank you for watching. I am Precious Nzeya Sakaleji. Remember, COVID is real. Always mask up, avoid crowded places, wash your hands for at least 20 seconds or use alcohol hand-based hand sanitizer. Thank you for watching. I am Precious Nzeya Sakaleji. Pleasant viewing.